Nakaba, I'm begging you, bro. Please don't make this weird. What's up, guys? I got Pencil here, and here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 148 of Four Knights of the... which is known as Dark Clouds Looming. And ladies and gentlemen, this is quite the chapter. If I do say so myself, this is quite the chapter. There's a bunch of big stuff. There's a bunch of little stuff. There's a bunch of big stuff becoming little stuff, and a bunch of little stuff becoming big stuff. So, we got a hefty, nifty, no lefty chunk to talk about. So, let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Heading me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do want to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. Let's talk. There are a couple big things. I think the biggest one. Gosh darn it. Here's the thing. I understand. And you know what? I'd rather have the sins be active in the plot and have them be actively dealt with than them not be involved in the plot at all. I still think it's kind of malarkey that Meliodas not really, just held back, just waited as long as he did. It's not like he was even fighting. The fact that he waited as long as he did in the Leonis incident arc, I still think that's crazy. But obviously we didn't have a way to nerf him, so you had to take him out the plot one way or another, and by taking him out the plot, just have him not intervene. So I'm fine with it. Another thing, I feel a little bit sad, because I love the king, dog, but we gotta nerf him. That's the unfortunate thing. Big thing on top of this necessary king nerf, I do believe it's not going to last. A part of me was definitely worried. But I do think this king nerf is just going to be a temporary setback. We do have La Droga de Yor. By the end of the chapter, La Droga de Yor is back in the hands of the Cayenne family. Will it stay there? Maybe not, but I'm hoping it does, or at least Nasian gets a little hit of that bad boy, a couple drops of the sauce so he can remake it. I think Daddy King's going to be fine by the end of the arc. I just think we need to nerf him, and Diane doesn't have any Joel's dances up, so Warren Dahl can actually be a threat. Not Warren Dahl, Warren Dane. World Dane. And speaking of World Dane, this chapter, by explaining this, actually goes a little bit crazy. Allow me to hit the Kilbegon voice real quick. This was my true goal, to defeat the powerful foe that was such an eyesore to Waldane, my creator. And now, right here, the mission is complete. Big things. Now, if you remember, Kilbegon, quote-unquote, is a group of lizardmen. And lizardmen are a species that was created many years ago by a sorcerer fusing human and dragon DNA, or something along those lines. I forget the full details of the story. But Kilbegon's old. His people are old. Their creator should be old, because they're an established species with their own biases and stuff like that. So you know what that means, right? Little Miss Worldane is actually old as dirt. Well, not old as dirt, but they're actually relatively ancient. Or at least that's what this chapter soft implies when King gets nerfed. Because they say, hey, I'm doing this all for the creator, the big G. But they don't say Arthur is their creator, they don't say Cass is their creator, they say Worldane. And this is obviously Worldane. Worldane is likely the creator of all lizardmen. All lizardmen date back a while. So Worldane is likely very, very old. And as this chapter clearly displays, Worldane is a very, very powerful mage of literally all different varieties. First things first, they obviously created their entire own species. Their species are apparently potent enough as mages that they could survive a relatively extended fight with King, and then have something as crazy as a deadly soul cursing grudge, which would nerf King of all characters. And if you know Seven Deadly Sins, nerfing Full Wings King is insane. Even if he's slightly stronger than his original mini-wing self, the fact that any of King's magic forces will get sealed away is a testament to Kilbegon's strength, which is a backwards testament to Worldane's strength as a mage, which is very, very impressive. Next big thing this does do, though, is show how powerful, once again, that Worldane is. From their memory manipulation. Heaven help me. The memory manipulation from Gallery of Memories all the way to the ability to control Sixus's own mind and body and get them to say things that they wouldn't typically say.
and redirect and sort of manipulate those memories is all very, very impressive. As a mage, they are already better than Gawain and already better than Vivian, at least in my opinion. From what they've shown so far, from their duplications, to their species creation, to that casting of Perfect Cube, to the destruction of Perfect Cube, to the multi-element ball, to that memory manipulation, to the biological manipulation, everything that Worldane has already made them the second best mage in the entire series. At least in my opinion. They've shown everything the other mages can do except for absolute cancel, and that's just because they haven't had to yet. So Worldane, insanely powerful. This leads me, nice little sub-theory, sub-theory. Well, Merlin is described as the daughter of Belialowin, which implies that she's the only one. I think we may have another escapee, ladies and gentlemen, or at least someone who was inspired by Belialowin, or someone who may have escaped the god's wrath, because we don't really have any other context for mages this powerful. Worldane is built fundamentally different to do all that they're doing, and honestly, I'm very, very impressed by the level of strength. And they kind of bad. But another thing this chapter does confirm, by the necessary nerfing of King, is that ultimately one King is stronger than Diane, if you had any devils with that. Well, I don't think anyone really... Did anyone think Diane was stronger than King? Even Droll's Dance? I don't think so. But still, what this does confirm, King, and any sin stronger than King, is still a threat to at least 3 of the 4 perils. Once again, Beltripe is a weird one, because he does have feats on a sin. He does low div Gother. But to be fair, Gother is arguably the weakest sin at this point. So it really becomes a question. But it does sort of reinforce, hammer away the narrative that while the 4 perils are powerful, the 4 evils are nothing to sneeze at, there's something enough to sneeze at for the sins. The sins are still a degree and tier above, which means that once again we're not really going to allow them to operate at full potential in the respective narrative, because if they do, apparently they'd wash the current threat, which is why I'm still interested. Once again, the longevity of Four Knights is something that's bouncing all about my brain case. I'm wondering how long we really going to go on. What kind of freedom and flexibility do we have when so much is sort of hard locked beneath the sin tier? I get why we aren't transcending it, why we aren't eclipsing it. If we start introducing beyond sin tier threats, our main cast is going to do crazy leaps to get up to sin level and then surpass that in order to deal with those sin tier threats. But I'm really wondering how the sins are going to be implemented if we're going to have to keep nerfing them, dropping them down, distracting them, having them acting unoptimally. Because let's be real, King kind of fumbled. Like, let's be honest. Kilbegon shouldn't have been able to get this close. And soak King and their juice. Let's be honest. But we need to do it for the plot. So I'm wondering how much for the plot are we really going to stretch? How wide, thick, and juicy we really going to get with it? And I wonder if the 4 perils, except for maybe Beltripe, once again, we have no idea where he actually scales since he's just apparently a crazy monster. I wonder how many amps they're going to get, or how many amps they need to really become something of a threat all to their own, even to the sin tiers. Because presumably, the Knights are going to catch up. Lance is already there. Who knows how much stronger he's gotten with an actual Sacred Treasure and 2 extra years of training. Who knows how strong he's gotten. Tristan, while I assume he's trapped in the Cauldron of Offwin, he's likely only getting stronger with age. That demon and goddess power is likely going crazy. Gawain has likely been storing up their magic for the past 2 years, so we may get Big Wayne back, at least permanently, for a little bit. So they're going to be swole. And you know Percy's going to get that post-time skip amp. Or at least he should. So the real question is, how powerful are these 4 perils really going to be allowed to be, and how much stronger do we really have to make them to make sure that they step up and hold up in comparison to the threat level? Oh no, it gets a little bit chaotic. Another thing though, I think it is unfortunate, Diane didn't actually have a real contingency, or at least not in the eyes of, you know, Big Beltripe, you know what I'm talking about? Or not in the eyes of Worldane, because Worldane didn't set up a Kilbegon for Diane. Only King was, which implies that maybe I keep saying Doll, but Worldane does transcend Diane, and it wouldn't be too crazy, except the thing is, it does get weird towards the end of the chapter, because Worldane, while admittedly seemingly off guard, they do get hit and staggered by a punch from presumably Zana's golem, and then Belt ends up stealing La Droga d'Or right out of their hand. So, I'm not sure. The power level of Worldane and the rest of the Knights, or at least the 4 evils, is very not going to say contentious. It's sort of like fluctuating. I'm not sure if Nakaba even knows where he really wants to place him. Because on half the way, they're literally the second most skilled mage in the entire series. Of course, there aren't two mages to really compare them to, but like still, I think the only other one, maybe third, because it probably goes like current Merlin, original Gother, who was also a monster of a mage, and then Worldane, because original Gother was actually able to affect the gods. Meanwhile, Worldane doesn't seem to have any sort of feats on that caliber yet. But still, I don't know. It's a very precarious spot. I'll be honest, I want the four perils to actually be really, really strong. I want them to be our equivalent to necessarily, because the thing is, the Ten Commandments get cliffs pretty quickly, but I guess you kind of do have that comparison to the Ten Commandments, where there's like a Ten Commandment level, like Fraudrin and up, but at the same time, there's massive gaps between like a Zeldris and a Galland, for example. So maybe that's the same case here, where Beltsuipe is just an entirely different tier. He's the Lance equivalent, where he's just insanely stronger than everybody else, and then everyone else has to deal with Worldane, with Pelgard, with Ironside. So they're very interesting things set up by this. It's sort of, this chapter, like I said, has a lot of big stuff, a lot of little stuff, and it sets up a lot of stuff and takes away a lot of stuff. By taking away King's power, it essentially directly concedes the idea that Worldane at most isn't confident in a head-to-head battle with King, to the point where they're willing to sack a seemingly enough, pretty important subordinate in order to drop King's power level to a point where they would not be a threat to them, or they just think King watches them. And thusly, they had to go about this roundabout trickery way. Because notably, they do not traditionally break into the Fairy Realm, or at least they don't fight traditionally once they get into the Fairy Realm. Obviously, the Fairy Realm is guarded and wouldn't necessarily let them in without Myrtle acting as he's an accomplice in that case. Without Myrtle acting as an accomplice, they wouldn't have been able to get in, but if they were just so powerful that they could ragdoll, one-shot, or even box on even ground with the Fairy King, they likely would have done it. But they don't. Which implies to me that Worldane, at best, is straight equal to King, most likely weaker. Which I'm still 50-50 on. Because, like, think about that. We know Pelgard and Ironside are not even at a tenth of Bond's level. When they're fully motivated, not on their home turf ability, but while they're fully motivated and seemingly have the advantage, a Bond at 1/10 of his pure strength, his real strength, most likely a 1/10 of Bond's real strength that was suppressed, was more than enough to press and actually defeat what would be a full power Ironside and what would likely be a full power Pelgard. So that's Bond. Imagine King. Or imagine Mel specifically. That's the thing. This chapter does two good things by bringing back Mini King. It does leave the door open for other characters to do stuff, which is very, very important. Well, of course, this is Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Seven Deadly Sins. This isn't Seven Deadly Sins, Four Knights of the Apocalypse. And two, it does open a door for a character who I feel like has been kind of getting a lot of disrespect and what should realistically be their own arc. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Yeah, Big Nos. Big Nos literally gets what? One panel in this entire chapter? Like, let me double check. I think he legit gets one panel. He doesn't even get to show up in the final spread or anything. Let me see. I think the one not even. The one Nasians panel. That's it. He doesn't even get a word. Tiori gets more words. So I feel like Nakaba, he's kind of been doing this slow build, this nice little slow burn, this soft little bit of building and development, this next level, this transcendent state, slowly but surely letting Nasian simmer under the rug. Now, the question really becomes from this point on, how's the battle going to go? Because clearly there's going to be Worldane versus the Cayenne kids, right? But how far away is Diane? How much of King's magic was sealed away? How useful can he really be? And obviously, what role is Nasian's going to play? That's the real question here. Because once again, despite how much Nakaba's redirected and say, nah, don't worry. This is the Cayenne Kid arc. There's no need for Nasians. Nasians isn't even here. You see that? So we don't need him. I still think Sang gonna go crazy with Nasians. I don't know. I feel like we still are missing out on that. That's the one thing I feel like this arc is missing. Nasians has had nothing but L's. And even if he had a slight temporary dub, it was just that. A slight temporary dub. Meanwhile, a lot of other characters have been getting dub after dub after dub after dub. Whether it be Diane through her mothering council session, whether it be King, just in general. Like, King and Diane. They definitely were in a certain kind of space. But with that being the case, everyone else is sort of getting dubs. King got a dub on Kilbegon. Diane got a dub on Myrtle. Myrtle got a dub with Abby family. Everyone else is getting dubs. And Nasians, he keeps getting snubbed. So I'm really hoping Nasians is allowed to just whip it up in the kitchen. Just a little bit. Not too much, nothing too crazy. I'm not expecting Nasians to pop out the cut and start just boxing Worldane. Like, once again, I do think ultimately the four evils should be set up as a threat somewhat comparable to the not the seven deadly sins, the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Obviously, being the mage of the group, presumably, they will be Gawain's opponent. So I do think that is all important. But at the same time, what's more important is my goat Nazi is getting a double package up a spare my baby boy. Give him a dub. I did it! I did it! Not my baby. But overall, an insanely W chapter. Once again, it is a middle-of-the-line setup chapter for the most part, but stealing away King is very important setup. Setting up the end of Kilbegon in order to do this is a very important setup. It reveals a lot about Worldane and the hypothetical age and the overall implications and the depths of Worldane's magic, all of which is very, very important. I think this chapter is going to set up to have lasting consequences in terms of like information loss or information gathered based on it, even if they lose something like Little Drogador. I think there still is a lot to be gained from this battle, especially for Nasians, for King, for Diane. There's so much more to learn, so much more to see, so much more to grow with Worldane being there, and I'm excited to see it. However, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave kind of pale. Leave kind of pale in the comment section down below. I would like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little keeps so you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have another Patreon below where you support me for as low as $1. Get a month, down month. You things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, you have a link to my Ko-Fi down below where you can drop 25 beans to order whatever video you like, or do a one-time donation for your boy of any value just to help a brother out. But now, and thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dad of the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members. Wakana Plays, Greyhound, Akids Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, King Sukuna, NMA, Real Rare, and Paris Arnold. I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons, Super Gamer Q, Steron, Sean, Sammy, Oexian, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, and Igneo. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 member, Autumn Mornings Lazo. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members, Jay Warrior and Robbie Uchiha. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons, Panda Goat, Joaquin Munoz, and Idemocom. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $20 patron, Calvin Elder.